Oh buddy, Andy here again down on the beach. Lovely summer's afternoon. And I made a video, or put a video up should I say, the other day about the sort of TV appearance that I did last Friday evening. And I said I'd make a video explaining about it, and so this is it. And funnily enough, the video that I did before that, which I believe was called something like The Reinvention of Andy, I happened to mention in there all those things that have happened to me over the past 3 years. And how, you know, my life had moved into sort of local music, things that I'm very interested in, social media and all that type of thing. And I think I added, and other people have said to me before, is that because of what I've done, you know, the radio and all this type of thing, is that people sort of come to me and ask me questions. I regularly get phone calls or emails from people asking if I can put them in touch with certain people or advise them about this or that, or, you know, suggest someone that they could talk to about this or that sort of thing. Well, last Thursday I got a phone call from the BBC, which you get a phone call, is that Andy? So I said, yeah, this is so-and-so from the BBC South East Today programme. You think, oh, right-o. The first thing you're thinking is, how did you get my number, or why did you ring me up, type of thing. And I think one of the reasons is because other people have said, why do they contact you, Andy? And I think, well, I did something for them about a year ago, although I do believe this came about through something completely separately. I think they got my number via the Hastings Rock site. They wanted to, so I asked what it was about, obviously, and they said, well, we're doing the story about David Bowie and the making of his video Ashes to Ashes, tying up with the exhibition that's currently on at the Victoria and Albert Museum in London. And within that, they've got these storyboards for that particular video. And then someone happened to tell them that it was made in Hastings. And I said, well, yeah, not far from Hastings. I said it was done, so I understand, in a place called Ecclesbourne Glen. So the girl said, well, you know more about it than I do. I think the original reason for contacting me, although, as I said, I did something for them before, was if I could help, once again, put them in touch with someone who might be able to talk about it. But in the course of the conversation, I was saying, well, I know a bit about it. I said, I know it was where it's filmed, and talking about how it resurrected his career at the time when it came out, the people that were involved in the video and all this type of thing. And the girl said, well, you're saying all the things we want to hear. It sounds as though you're the person to talk to. Would you be interested in doing it? And I said, yeah, why not? Because anything like this, it's great fun, you know. And I've put, well, isn't it nervous? Why do you want to do that? And I said, well, no. All these occasions when I've done things like this, my old thing about saying yes to things, it's great fun, as indeed this turned out to be. We sorted it out, and she told me who the reporter was going to be, not a name that I particularly knew. I knew the name, but not one of their sort of regular on-screen reporters, should we say. And we arranged that the guy would come round to my house the next day, and then we'd go off and film this video. And I explained that it wasn't actually done in Hastings, it was done outside of Hastings, and to recreate it in any way, or to go anywhere that looked like it, you would have to go east of Hastings because of the way that the sort of topography, the geography is, you know, the way that the cliffs work, etc. So anyway, the reporter turns up the next day, and I said, right, what do you want to do? Where do you want to go? I said, because if you want to get somewhere, you know, if you want to go to the actual place that it was filmed, it's not easy. It's going to be a right hike. I know that they always carry their own cameras. He's got a big rucksack with all the camera gear in. He's got a big tripod that he has to take with him as well. Apart from the fact that he's probably dressed rather smartly, certainly better than I was. And I said maybe the best thing to do would be go to Pet Level, where we can sort of get in an area that looks pretty similar to what it does in the video. He said, no, I want to go to the right place. I said, okay, fine. So we'll try and find it. I get my Ordnance Survey map out. We drive around to where I think it might be. We can't get to the actual, anywhere near it at all. I know we'd have to walk sort of 10 minutes or so down tracks and all this type of footpaths and scramble over rocks, etc. But we couldn't get it. We kept getting gates locked in the way. We asking people. We eventually ended up in a caravan park where we parked illegally, I think, although no one seemed to worry. And the gardener who was helping there told us the sort of footpath that we needed to take. We found the footpath, which is literally, and as is this always the way, it's literally just outside of Hastings. I thought, oh, we could have come at this from a completely different angle, but that's the way it is. It's just the other side of the East Hill for anybody who knows Hastings. It's the first dip towards Fairlight after the East Hill. Anybody knows it, it's very, very steep. The name Ecclesbourne Glen, meaning it's like a little stream that's carved, or sea or little river or whatever, that's carved through the rock down onto the beach. But I said to the reporter, Charlie, that you've got to bear in mind that video was filmed 30 odd years ago. The way that the coastal erosion around here has worked, that this was a completely different place. Even where I'm sitting now, you know, a few miles away, would have been a completely different place 30 years ago. So what might have been a beach then, you can't get to. To prove that, when we got down there used to be a footpath down onto the beach, or what was the beach. That's now little like a barrier there, so we actually climbed over the barrier. Thought we'd come this far, we wanted to do the rest. So we climbed over the barrier, once again, as I said, with the big rucksack and the tripod and all this type of thing. We went part way down the track, and then it got to a point where I was thinking, I don't know about this, and Charlie was saying, I'm not sure about this, and I said, well, I'll have a little bit, no, go a little bit further. So I went a bit further, and I said, no, it's all right, we can get down here, we can't get onto the beach, but we can get out into the open, if you know what I mean, and we can look down onto the beach, only a few feet, but not easily get down, or certainly not easily get back up again. So we scrambled all over these rocks and sat there for a while, sort of filming some bits and pieces. Then we went through some questions and all this type of thing. All went very well, and then we were coming back, and you could see these people watching us clambering up these cliffs. And he said, "You're like a gazelle, Andy." I said, "Well, I'm used to doing this type of thing, clambering over rocks and this and all that sort of thing." But he said, "This is great." He said, "I could have quite easily have sat there for quite some time. It's something out of the void." He said, "I won't forget this sort of day, you know." And that's point I was making earlier. It is an adventure. It's something that's a little bit different. I had great fun. He had great fun. So much so that we're going to meet up again at some time when he's next down in the area. I said, well, I can take you for walks here and there and everywhere. So quite an interesting afternoon. As is always the case with those type of things, you record lots and lots of different things. Sometimes it's like covering shots, you know, just to make sure you've got all the, you know, me gazing out to sea wistfully and bits of the cliffs, and me looking at the old singles of mine that I bought with my David Bowie RCA singles from back in the early 70s. And we went over sort of several sort of questions, and as is always the case, once again, the clip that they showed, I felt was the worst piece of link, if you want to call it that I did actually, because the nature of the question sort of threw me a bit. Why was this video recorded in Hastings? I'm thinking, how the hell do I know? It could have been recorded anyway. But as I said, I'll put a link to it but down below in case you haven't seen the particular clip. It looks quite an otherworldly place. It's certainly out of the way, a little bit different, something that people wouldn't automatically recognise, I suppose. And that's a bit like the video, the Major Tom thing, the way it was done, the solarisation, and I quoted all these bits. I did a bit of research. I knew a bit, but I did a bit of research, obviously, on Wikipedia and places like that, because the internet's a wonderful place to finding out things. But one thing I said we were talking about on the day was that video was made in 1980. And there's very little, even on the internet, if you search it, put David Bowie, Ashes to Ashes, Hastings or something, there's very little information. A few little diary extracts from David Bowie or the Steve Strange guy, you know, the New Romantic Blitz Kids people. There's little bits there, one of which even refers to Southend, which I think, you know, may well have come into it at some point. But if that had been done now, there would be so many videos of it up there, you wouldn't be able to keep it quiet, you know, there'd be stuff all over the internet. So I mean, those 30 years have changed in lots of different ways. And so the interesting point, and I must admit that the report did nick some of my best lines in his introduction and his outro as well, about how that was sort of resurrected his career, because up until that point, yes, he'd had critical acclaim with all the Berlin albums, you know, Heroes and Low and Lodger. This was the one, Ashes to Ashes, that single, the first single off the album, Scary Monsters, and then the next album was Let's Dance. By far the most critically, well, maybe not critically acclaimed, but certainly most commercially successful period of his career, I think. So an interesting day, and hopefully he said, oh no, this is good, he said, we'll be using you again. And I sincerely hope they do, because it's good fun, and if you ever get the chance to do it, give it a go, you know, because you just never know where it might end up, and you may even end up having a bit of fun. You won't get any money out of it, which is always, oh, how much do you get paid? Nothing. But you never know what the future may hold. If you don't say yes to things, you know, nothing will ever happen with it. So explore your horizons, or expand your horizons. If someone gives you an opportunity like that, you might as well take it. As I said, you never know where it'll end up, and the worst that can happen is you'll have a little bit of fun along the way. Anyway, I'm going to sit here, enjoy the beach, because it's beautiful this afternoon. I'll speak to you again soon. Goodbye.